Hello everybody. So as you could see in that video from Melanated Fathers TV, he did a great breakdown on his commentary on how he felt about the Ritalin situation and how he felt about the situation as a whole. And I completely agree with him. I think that we're not like other communities, right? We already understand that black children are looked at differently. We already understand that black children are treated differently, specifically in school, and I can imagine in other environments as well. They're overrepresented in special ed, um, and that's where you see a lot of these medications try to be given, or a lot of these types of stimulants try to be given to children, which is inappropriate in my opinion. Children don't need drugs to focus. Most children don't need drugs to focus, especially black children don't need drugs to focus. There's coping mechanisms, there's other ways to interact with that child to get them to focus, whether that's in school, whether that's in other areas of their life, but specifically I'm going to focus on school. So I just think it's completely inappropriate to give your child a stimulant such as Ritalin. An adult is one thing, at least an adult, most adults know what they're getting into. A child does not know what the effects of that drug is going to be. We have no idea on the effects, truly the effects of these drugs on children. We simply don't. We don't know if it completely changes their personality the second that that drug interacts with their body. It could completely change the way they think. It could completely numb the way that they act. We don't know. And that's why I personally I'm not a really big thing on vaccines. You know, with the world situation right now, I don't think we should, as melanated people, we shouldn't be told what needs to be in our bodies. We should have the right to make that for our own choice and our own decision. We already know that there's been many medical mispractices in this country to black and brown people. So all this marketing and all this advertising about, all this bullshit about, they'll show a video on a commercial with a black doctor, specifically a woman giving a black nurse, a vaccine because they're trying to condition us to take these vaccines, which is not going to happen. At least if you're on this platform, I would ask that you really consider what you're doing, especially for your children, because we don't know the long-term effects of these vaccines. You see, on average, I believe it takes about 5 years to develop an effective vaccine. This vaccine was developed in 8 or 9 months. I don't trust nothing like that. To me, that's not very accurate, nor is that appropriate. So if they want to take the vaccines, let them take the vaccines. If they want to pump their children with Ritalin, let them do that. But for us as melanated people, we need to understand what is around us, the system around us. And unfortunately, I don't believe we do. And that's why part of the reason why I started this is because I want to share ideas with people that will listen. I want to share how I feel, how I think, and what I've been able to discover during this COVID. You see, COVID is the greatest thing that ever happened to me because it allows me to have the free time to do things like this. But going back to what the brother was saying, I agree with him. I completely agree. We should not let these types of drugs into our children's bodies. Now, as a parent, you have the right to make whatever decision you feel, but please understand that that white teacher telling you that your child is unable to learn or has a learning disability or is unable to focus, when in reality, all he needs is a different way of learning. All he needs is more interaction and more hands-on learning. All he really needs is a black teacher in front of him. So the school recommends that he takes these drugs or takes these stimulants to focus is a very, very dangerous thing because we already know that ethnically, they're not going to really understand our culture. So they're going to try to push things we don't need to try to make it easier on them, which is bullshit. And that's why we need educated black people to stand up and fight for the masses. I really believe that. And so I just had to add my commentary on it. I appreciate the brother. I appreciate Melanated Fathers TV. I think he's a really wise brother. We don't have to agree with everything on this platform, but we do have to respect each other. And so I appreciate you listening to what I had to say if you sticked around for this long. And I just ask that, if you're enjoying the channel, or if you feel like this is something that you're going to enjoy, you go ahead and drop a like, leave me your comments down below, and I'll try to respond to each and every one of them. And you share this with other family members, other brothers, sisters, co-workers, whoever, teachers, black teachers, anybody that you feel is going to enjoy the content. Please share that, because I want to grow this. I want to grow this to be big. I'm B1. I'm black first. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I definitely feel like I want to share my ideas and views into this world, and this gives me a platform. This is a platform for me to do that, and I hope that it stays that way. So I thank you. I love you, family, and y'all have a great, blessed rest of your day. Thank you.
Into it, it kind of does a disservice to the black family, right? So let's get into it. Last news story. I just want to touch on this briefly because I found an article here in NBC News where it says more parents seek ADHD diagnosis and drugs for kids to manage remote learning. Now let me read a quick story about this suburban family and why she felt it was necessary to get her daughter checked out, or basically put her daughter on drugs, right? So Susan McLaughlin, a 12-year-old daughter, and her 12-year-old daughter Isabella. Her daughter Isabella was a straight A student before the pandemic. Isabella, who lives in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, excelled at science and math and was already getting high school credit for algebra. Now, but when her school shut down in March and classes shifted to Zoom, Isabella's grades took a nosedive. She signed on for her virtual class from a desk piled high with books, papers, stuffed animals, then spent hours trying to clean the room instead of focusing on schoolwork. She found herself paralyzed by assignments, McLaughlin said, but she wouldn't tell the teacher over email that she was struggling. So this is something she would have done in person. And her mom basically said, her mom, who is 53, who takes Ritalin, by the way, just so you know, her mom suffers from anxiety, so she takes these kind of drugs too, which we see a lot. These are white folks, but we see this a lot in our community too, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute, right? So her mother, who's 53, said basically, she wants to do something to help her daughter out, so she's considering getting her tested for ADHD, and she said so she can get Ritalin, Adderall, or Viacy, I think it is. So here's the thing, family, and this is to all my black parents out there. I think what the pandemic is doing to everybody is it's giving you a glimpse of what type of home relationship you have with your kid, right? Because sometimes we get in the habit of sending our kids to school. And let's keep it real. For some of us, school is like a babysitter. School is like, okay, get out of my hair. You come back when you come back. When you come back, I'll have minimal interaction with you. We get you dressed, do the same shit tomorrow, right? But in actuality, this can be used as a good time to do a few things, right? This can get you in touch with what kind of structure, what kind of discipline you have in your house, right? Because I don't believe in the whole ADHD thing. Well, let me take that back. Can someone have attention deficit disorder? Yes, where you can't sit down, where you can't move. I mean, where it's hard for you to sit in one spot. Yeah, right. But little bitty children, as parents, there are ways to fort that. Like there are ways to prevent that from happening. Yes, you'll have a child that needs to run around and needs to, but this is just knowing your kid. Put them in environments where they can run around, but they also need to know when to sit the fuck down. You know what I mean? And that's something you teach. And I think some parents never found it useful to teach these kind of things. Now you got a kid at home all fucking day and you're not sure what to do with them, right? But if they were small, when they were smaller, if you would have took the time to make them understand the importance of sitting down, the importance of discipline, and really for this young white girl, they're mentioning it like her room is fucking dirty. So because her room is dirty, it's taking her 4 hours to clean her room so she can't study. I'll be honest, that's kind of bullshit. That to me, that's a lack of structure. If you're in a home with a child and they don't have a bedtime, they don't have a time to do schoolwork, they don't have a time to do chores, right? You're creating the fucking ADHD, right? You're creating exactly what you're trying to get rid of, right? So now they are making a good point, like I talked to my 13-year-old about. You have to check your kid's headspace during this time. Because this pandemic, whether we agree with it or not, whether we think it's true or false or whatever the case, this is an unprecedented time in our country. We've never seen a time like this where the world has actually stopped. Now, adults are going crazy right now. We have a lot of adults that are struggling with how to deal with this shit, right? How do you think it feels for 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old who can't be around their friends, who can't be in their social circles, right? So we have to be cognizant of that. Excuse me. And a main way to do that, I think, as parents, is just be engaging. Like, ask your kids question, get an idea of what they're doing. If they look sad, right? This is something I never did before, but if my son temperament looks weird, I question him about it. Hey, what's going on? Why you feel that way? You feel okay today? Like, ask them how they feel. How you feel today? You feel like going to school? Everything is okay with your head? You know what I mean? Because again, we don't know how this is negatively affecting our babies. But black parents, don't you put your kid on no goddamn Ritalin. Don't you put your kid on none of this shit, because ultimately these are the same drugs they give us as adults. Like, some of these drugs is the same shit they lace with heroin and other drugs that make adults addicted to it, right? So in reality, you're actually addicting your kids to drugs before they can even understand what's going on. You see what I'm saying? So you think you give your kid Ritalin for 7 years in a row, he gonna stop? You think he gonna stop at Ritalin? Nah. Then somebody gonna pass him the weed. Then somebody gonna pass him a Vicodin. Then somebody gonna pass him a Percocet. Then he may just keep on fucking going. You see what I'm saying? So nah, we ain't giving our kids drugs. Don't do none of that. Whoop their ass. Not like a beating, right? But shit, your kid don't want to sit down. What you gonna do? Because this ain't funny, but this white mom is talking about her daughter's room is dirty, so it's making it hard for her to do schoolwork because the room is dirty. So she spent 3 hours cleaning the room. Well, how about she clean the room the night before? See, maybe she's not made to clean the room. I really do think a lot of parents who never focus on discipline, who haven't seen fit to create structure, you catching hell now because your kid is at home all day. You don't know what to do with them. You don't know what to make them do. You know what I mean? So use this as an opportunity. If you are a parent who hasn't created structure in your kid's life, understand that it's necessary. Use this as an opportunity to create a structured environment where some of this shit won't really affect you. But getting Ritalin and getting all these drugs, black family, not us. Right? They already try to recommend these drugs to our kids just for being a little rambunctious. And some of our kids are just, they are high energy individuals and they can be bored. They can be in a class where it's not challenging them enough and they bored. So they're getting up and moving or getting up and being a class clown. None of that means they need drugs, family. None of that means they need Ritalin or any of this shit. Our community is already plagued with drug abuse, plagued with neglect. We have all these other isms, so to speak, that we have to deal with. Don't put your kid on no goddamn drugs at all. You know what I mean? So, was that the last news story? Yes, that was the last news story, family. So let's get into it, right?